On ReggieNet, under the Resources and Materials tab, you will find all of the folders that you will need to complete the clinical report. So just in the folder Clinical Report, you will find that there is an overview, yet again, which you've seen with the observations of what you'll be writing in this report. Here I have the actual template that you can use to help organize your ideas, and then I also give a student example. So opening up the overview, we went over this briefly with the observation notes, but so the observation notes are worth 10 points, but the report is 60 points, so this is really the bulk of your grade. So you will use your observation notes to write a clinical report. There are 3 sections of this report. You have your physical development, you have your cognitive development, and then the social and emotional development. So please refer to the template to help you in the student examples to guide your completion of this assignment. The report will be approximately 7 to 9 pages, double-spaced and in 12-point font. Now, you really do need at least 7 pages to fully cover all the material in this report. And a lot of students go over this page limit, and I'm okay with that. So as long as you can complete the assignment, provide evidence, and talk about the different theories, in all honesty, I don't care how long it is, so don't worry about sticking to those page lengths. But it really needs to be at least 7 pages to really cover all of the material. So in your report, you need to provide evidence from your observations of cognitive, physical, social, and emotional development for the different age ranges. And I really need specific, detailed examples. So that's when your observation notes become really important to even talk about, well, this is what one child said, these were specifically their actions. You really need those to then provide evidence for what you're saying. You need to compare and contrast each domain of development across the different grades that you observed. So really thinking about, well, this is kind of the general behavior I saw in the early childhood section, but to contrast that with the high school level, this is what I saw. Describe differences you observed within each grade level. So even within a classroom, you're going to see a variety of different activities, cognitive processes, and you're also going to see differences related to culture and gender. And so that's all important to note in the report. Number 4, it says, you need to connect theory or concepts then to those observations. So it's important at the beginning of each section that you tell me, okay, here's the main theory, this is what the theory says, and then you're going to connect it to what you saw. And also cite any sources that you use as you're writing about the theories. So mostly you're going to cite Bergen and Bergen 2012, that's our textbook, but if you decide to bring in any other information or videos we've watched, you need to make sure to cite those as well. Please do not cite my PowerPoint lectures. I would prefer that you cite the textbook. Pretty much anything I say you can find somewhere in the textbook, so it's safe to just cite the textbook. So down here is the rubric for the clinical observation assignment and the paper. So we know 60 points is assigned to the actual report itself. So just make sure, if you want full points, make sure that you're looking at the exemplary section and make sure you're covering all of that. For the developmental domains, make sure you're describing each concept or theory at the beginning of the section. Make sure you use the theory appropriately, so make sure when you're talking about a specific example, it needs to make sure that the theory is actually matching what you're talking about, or if it's not, you state that it is actually not matching up with the theory, but you need to be clear about that. Comparisons are very important, and I think this is what most students fall short on in the report, is to make sure within each section that you're constantly comparing the age levels. And also make sure that you proofread. Make sure that your sources are cited. Please check for spelling errors. And also, it's just really helpful in general to have somebody else proofread your paper. I'm also happy to have you send a copy to me before you submit this at the end of the summer session, and I will give you feedback, which most students find very helpful. In the clinical observation folder, you'll also find the template. And so anything in red is basically you're either going to delete it or change it. So just make sure you have your last name, you date it, first and last name here, and you can can delete that. It's just telling you it's about 7 to 9 pages. You start with just a brief introduction to let me know what I'll be reading in this report. Then you're going to talk about students' physical development, so using the observation guide and the textbook, you're going to talk about what you saw physically with motor skills, as well as height and weight across the different grade levels. You'll then move into the cognitive development section, and these are when you'll discuss some of the main theories we talked about. So behaviorism and social learning theory. You're going to talk about if students were showing cognitive development or learning through modeling or watching someone, or if they are getting rewards or punishments, and if that might be guiding their learning. You're then going to talk about Piaget's theory of cognitive stages. And so you're going to draw from examples from different grade levels and thinking about how children cognitively change in their thinking at the different stages. You're then going to talk about Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, and this is related to kind of scaffolding and how teachers can really help move students from what they can do alone to what they can do with help. And so for this section, oftentimes you'll talk a lot about what the adults in the room are doing. You'll then move into the third section, the social and emotional development part, and you'll have a brief little introduction suggesting that we're switching from cognitive to the social and emotional section. You're going to talk about self-control and discipline. You'll then talk about student emotions, and then you'll talk about motivation. And remembering for all of these sections, always contrasting the different levels as well as defining for me what each of these concepts are. At the very end, you will have the textbook reference as well as any other references you choose to include. I've also included kind of a fake or a mock student example where I've just kind of drawn from other students' work that they've done a really good job on these sections. So this is just an example of what your final report might look like. So this is what people have written about for physical development. And as you can see, they provide specific examples. They talk about the different age ranges at the different levels. As you can see here, they're citing the textbook when they're talking about concepts or theories. For cognitive development, again, behaviorism and social learning. Here talking about classical conditioning, as well as operant conditioning and how we learn through observing others. And I have just drawn from different students' work, so this report that I've provided for you is way too long. So, I mean, it is 14 pages. It's fine if your report is 14 pages, but it does not need to be this long. Some of these sections really could be scaled back a little bit. Some people go really in-depth in describing what they saw, and that's fine, but you can actually be much more succinct and really kind of just telling me exactly what I need to know about that observation and how it's linked to theory or not linked to theory. And at the very end, let's see, move into social and emotional, and reference at the end. And usually, although I don't have it in here, it is nice to have just a brief conclusion wrapping up what you've talked about in your report. Again, please send me any drafts you would like, and I'm happy to give you feedback, but this should help you get started. I would also encourage you to, once you finish different modules, like once we finish the physical one, you can already start to kind of work on this report and thinking about what you'll talk about and the different concepts from the textbook. And especially the cognitive developmental one, for some reason students really struggle with writing about observations in this section, so I would encourage you to get started early. And even if you want to talk to me about different observations and how they would fit with those theories, I'm happy to do that. But definitely the cognitive one seems to be the most challenging for students, so I would encourage you to get started early on that.